I shouldn't be allowed to say what this car is. I think when we're in this brand, you're the only one that gets to announce what this is.
It's a Maserati Grecale. You have to say it from the heart. Say it from right here.
The Grecale. But
Maserati.
there you go. But there are 3 trims of this, okay? The 2 lower trims get a 4-cylinder with horsepower on either side of about 300 horsepower. That's not what this is. This is the Trofeo.
Roll your R's, the Trofeo.
And what's the engine called?
No, this is the Nettuno Engine. It's the derivation of the Nettuno V6 twin turbo out of the MC20. There's a connection there.
See, as you could tell, Paul, the former Maserati owner, is like shooting fish in a barrel with this thing.
I'm excited.
Great cars, great roads, and all the reasons we love to drive. Road trips, comparisons, test drives, and podcasts. This is Everyday Driver.
This is Maserati's kind of Macan Cayenne competitor. And I bring them both up because it's kind of between the two in size.
Yeah, it is.
It's not quite a Cayenne in size. It's bigger than the Macan. It is competing in that regard. I have to go out of GT mode into Sport. And you know what?
Ooh, look down here.
Yeah, Sport goes to red and stiffens up the air suspension and everything adaptive, and that's nice and all. However, in order to get the Sport setting that I'm used to in an AMG product or a Porsche product, I have to go all the way to Corsa in the Maserati, and then it does dial itself in, and the actual body control feels like what I would expect in a nearly 5,000-pound, 5-seat semi-sporty family SUV, which I can't believe is a category, but Maserati has joined that category with this, and it is a sister car in some ways to the Alfa Romeo Stelvia, but this has a completely different engine. 8-speed gearbox and that crazy twin-turbo V6 monster that's in the MC20 and other things is here. Paul gets to do his Italian hand motions again. Yes,
I'm excited. I don't love that every car manufacturer feels obligated to build an SUV, but this puts the Levante to shame.
It does. Yes, that's a great point.
Does it not?
Yes. The Levante can be forgotten thanks to the Grecale. Yes.
I'm sure there will be a next generation of the Levante because it's going to be positioned as the bigger alternative.
Yes.
But this is the right size. If you're looking for an SUV, you're looking for something different. And I have teased Maserati long enough and then became an owner of Maserati, which actually set me straight. And I know there has been an era, there was an era, a long era of Maserati where things were not going well. The products were not good. Things were a disaster, actually. But with the Grecale, with the MC20,
yes, that's the restart. That's the restart of the MC20.
Reinvented themselves. This is a direct link to the hot sports car that you really want.
Okay, I see what you're doing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Dad comes in, drools on the MC20, decides that he can't get an MC20, but you know what we can do? Here's the crazy madness of that. Not only can we get you a family SUV that has the same engine, but it's going to be a third of the price of the MC20, and it's still going to cost you over 6 figures. This thing starts at about $104,000 for the Trofeo. Now, you can get the 4 cylinders in about the $70,000 range, which is still a little pricier than the base AMGs and Porsches, if we're honest. It is also pricier than the base Stelvio. However, once you get to the Trofeo, you start at $104,000 and go way up. Would you like to tell the nice people what this costs and why?
This version, as it's loaded and as it's painted,
with this nice yellow, it's a great looking yellow.
It's $135,300. $135,000 for this.
Do you want to go further?
The reason is not the carbon trim. It's not the packages. It's not the trim. It's because of the paint. The paint color is giallo. It is yellow, and it is $19,000. But there's a reason it's $19,000.
Is there a reason?
There is.
Because I got to be honest with you, I don't think there's any paint worth $19,000. I have to say it before one of you type it. You can buy a car for the cost of the paint on this, and a huge number of people, and I am not in this group, but a huge number of people would never get yellow on anything that is a car. I like yellow on some things. This is $19,000 for a paint color that will not be in demand. So I would love for you to explain this to me because I am lost. I am lost in the wilderness, man, I'm telling you.
This is how you want your Grecale spec'd.
Okay.
You want the Trofeo. You want the yellow color, you want giallo.
Uh-huh.
Because it sets it apart. First of all, we need to go to styling. And one of the 5 tenets of this new Maserati that we are being introduced to is visual longevity. And bright, beautiful colors always work on beautiful, long-lasting, clean, classic surfaces.
I will go with you there, yes.
So now you've got the opportunity to introduce yellow paint. Yellow and blue, as a matter of fact, are the colors of Modena. And just as Ferrari is inextricably linked to Modena, so is Maserati. And what Maserati has done with this paint is paint it yellow, but it does have blue tones, blue flake.
It does. It's
and
actually surprisingly cool.
It's not green.
True.
In the light, it
True,
does not go green.
Yep, you're right.
You would think, how did they do yellow and blue to celebrate the city of Modena's heritage? Their colors are yellow and blue. That's why it costs $19,000. It celebrates the heritage of Maserati's linkage to Modena. And that makes it special.
Okay, can I bring up a fact?
Unfortunately, it's more than Porsche paint to sample.
Yes, and I have a Lotus Elise from 2006 that brand new was 50 grand for the entire car, and it is yellow with blue flake in the paint. I hate to say it, and of course my car is old and I don't keep my paint perfect, and so it doesn't look this good, but $19,000 for yellow. We were angry at Toyota for upcharging the yellow paint on the Supra for less than $1,000. We were angry at them for that.
500, 600
It was like $600. Yeah, here's $19,000.
$19,000 paint. That's really cool.
Look, I think this is an interesting alt, and I am the guy that loves alts. I like alts in the marketplace.
Yes.
I like things other than the obvious. We know the Porsche products are good. We know the AMGs are good. This is a fantastic alt. My concern is it costs a lot. The paint is a good reference to the fact that this just is expensive. Across the board, it's expensive.
Visual longevity. Walk around this car, look at the angles, look at the surfaces, and what it is a fullness to the surfaces. There's so many cars that have a surface and it's thin, there's no meat to it. There's a sensuality to every surface on this, because how do you make an SUV this size with all the thousands of millions of SUVs you can buy on the planet? It's not that many, but it feels like it.
Well, and it feels like they're all silver, and this was yellow and interesting looking.
It's $19,000.
It's $19,000 to not be silver, yeah,
How do you differentiate your SUV in the marketplace? How do you make it now feel, with this new Maserati, feel like you want to own it longer than just 3 to 5 years? How do you make it feel like you want to keep this for a long time? You're invested in it. And that's been the problem with Maserati is a long lineage of poorly maintained cars passed down through owners who kick the can down the road to the next owner, and they don't turn out to be very good.
You bought one like that, and you kicked the can.
I did kick the can.
Yeah, but that's okay. All right,
I bought it
get
for 10 grand, 11 grand.
Yeah.
And I gave it
on a credit card in Vegas at a sketchy dealership. But we drove it for a year. We drove it for a year. We did amazing things with that car, and it did keep running in spite of foibles.
Yeah.
I like the alts.
Yes.
And I like that this is an alt, and I like this interior a lot.
I do too.
It feels spacious. The interior does feel high-end. The problem with something like the Stelvio is the interior doesn't really match the price once you get into quadrifolios. This feels like a 6-figure car and interior. And I know there are cheaper versions, so I'm impressed with the fact that this feels approximately around, I'm going to say $80,000, $90,000 car interior.
Okay.
At 130,
well, it's because of the paint. It is a $100,000 car interior.
You're right.
It's just the paint that kind of kicks it up a little bit.
Yeah.
A big notch.
Yeah.
4 different screens in the interior, the instrument panel behind the steering wheel, then there's the central screen, then the HVAC controls down here are a separate screen, and the 4th screen is the clock.
Yep.
Fantastic. You've got clock options down here, and you can select compass, you can select the pedals, brake and power. It's kind of gimmicky, but you can kind of see what you're doing with your throttle and brake inputs. There's a G meter, and the clock even has sport and modern design features. This is pretty creative to me.
Mr. I Wear a Watch is excited about the clock.
Nobody
else is shocked by this.
Cool.
I do see it. I appreciate the fact that they took what is essentially the sport chrono concept that Porsche uses, and they made it multi-purpose.
Yes.
That is actually very cool. I will give them credit for that, and they put it in others of their models as well. I see that. I like sitting here. It's got good seats. The back's actually got a surprising amount of space. It has more space than a Macan.
Cayenne's might be a touch more, but
yeah,
comparable.
all of Maserati's comparatives are how much bigger it is in size than the Macan, and I keep going, you know the Cayenne exists, right? That is roughly this price. But I can't take away the fact that this is well done. I just am worried about the competition in this market for the price we're talking about.
All I can do is tell you that expensive products are designed to pull money out of wealthy people's wallets.
Oh yeah, sure.
But you have to feel justified in doing so. It can't just be because it's more expensive. I mean, some people buy the more expensive thing simply because it costs more. If you can, great, blessings, good on you. But if you want the thing, it needs to feel like you spent the money on it, and I do feel like this stands to that. It does feel like, all right, I'm getting something for a whole lot more money. Does it feel that way? Well, honesty of materials, more expensive materials. I think it does feel that way. The paint pushes it really far out.
Off into madness, yes.
It's really up there. But look how this looks. It's so classy.
It's a cool paint color. Thank God it's not silver. I am impressed here. I'm not quite as impressed as it costs, but maybe that's just me. But we ended up with a pickle fork badge on it, so that's good.
Finally, we're back in a pickle fork.
All right, I'm ready for you to drive.
I'm ready to drive. You will note the way to put it in gear is a push-button display. It's not obvious.
No.
You want to reach right here somewhere for a lever or a button or some sort of cool system.
And after that, I reach for the center the column, and I get lost there too, and then I go searching.
But the start-stop button is on the steering wheel, which is kind of cool. It's very Ferrari Alpha-ish,
it is, for sure.
Alpha-esque. Doing it this way, I know why it is, because it cleaned up the entire IP. It kept this screen, this shape, kind of all clean. It kept it, all mounted in one. It gave you space for a cubby here. It gave you dual
center
cup holders. So I do understand that. I'm getting used to it because we've driven it now a little bit. So I'm used to it. You'll notice we're back in an Italian car, which means shift paddles mounted on the column. It's also something I'm realizing I don't mind, because when you turn over the wheel, even on a sharp canyon road like this, you're never really far away from the paddles. And I like that when you go all the way over, the paddles are still here.
They're antlers.
They are
antlers. On the Alfa Romeo.
Okay, let's talk power. Nettuno.
Yeah. 523 horsepower, 457 pound-feet of torque,
and that is
speed
detuned.
transmission. Detuned from the MC20, yes.
Okay, the paddle feel is very clean and easy. I wish there were more resistance here. It's very easy to switch between. You just hit the drive button again. It's either drive, automatic, or manual. And it is an automatic transmission. So I wish it were crisper, faster shifts, but that isn't terrible. And we're also talking about an SUV. You could put it in Corsa mode and take it on track, but this is not a track car.
No, I mean, you're in Corsa mode. This actually is the mode that I feel like this is how I want this thing to ride when I'm pushing it hard. When I put it into GT mode, it feels almost a little too soft. There's GT, Sport, and Corsa. Sport, I feel like, is a poor middle ground. I get the GT mode, it feels soft. It most of the time feels a little too soft, but that's what you want to just ride around and deal with potholes in normal life.
Sure.
Corsa feels like what I want it to feel like when you're actually pushing hard. So I just skip sport mode altogether.
I could see Sport on smooth sweepers, long
maybe,
sweepers, that kind of thing. I could see that. Yeah, it makes a lot of power, and the entire car drives pretty lightweight despite its 4,700 pound curb weight, somewhere in there. It's like 4,700 pounds.
Yes, it
about
weighs
average
similar to and drives similar to its competitors. The C-Class Mercedes, the Cayenne, I mean, these kind of things weigh about the same and drive similarly.
But it drives lighter. It drives a little bit smaller, which is something that I really appreciate. I look for that, and it does grip hard. It doesn't suddenly become a sports car.
No, it's big and top-heavy.
But it is impressive.
Yes, I agree.
And is an alt to all the SUVs on the market and all the other brands. I do feel a different kind of steering feel, a different weight, a different way of settling the weight, different mechanical kinds of emotions. And I liken that to BMW's heyday, like the E90 series. That's what I'm starting to feel here.
Really?
It's
Okay.
giving its
All right.
own personality to me. It's not so insulated like a Lexus.
No.
Even Mercedes is far more insulated this. Porsche does have a great input, but it's a bit more refined even, I'd say.
This doesn't feel as refined.
A little raw.
It does feel more raw than both the Porsche and similar actually to the Alfa Romeo. But my concern there is if you're spending this much money, I think you want that refinement to be available, and it still go like this.
True, I suppose. I guess that's just a brand choice, right? I guess that's just the thing that sets the Maserati brand apart. And whether or not you like that, I like that they're setting themselves apart. I like that they're making that choice and saying, if this feeling is for you, come buy our products.
Sure.
If it's not, there's plenty of choice. Oh, did you hear that?
I did. You got awfully excited about it, but I did hear it.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I hear it. All right.
That's kind of
good.
raw and a little bit irreverent.
I get
Wouldn't
that.
you say?
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Bit
Yeah.
Dangerous. Dangerous is this Grecale's middle name.
That engine is really one of the things that Maserati is able to use now to set themselves apart.
Yeah, it
because
is.
if they had the same engines in this as you find in the Alfa Romeo, I think it would feel even more similar to that because it shares parts.
Agreed.
And so that engine has really helped set it apart. And it is a good engine. I see the Alt here. This is a tough market for this truck. I'm struggling with. I wouldn't choose this over a lot of the competition, but I think it's probably closer for you.
It's closer for me. This is pulling that alt choice kind of thing that you like. That's pulling that out of me.
I see it.
And again, I eviscerated Maserati for years.
Yeah.
And some of it was well deserved. But now at this point, it is not deserved at all. Maserati has built a quality product. I feel like this is something that is going to last. You take care of it just like any car. I don't feel like this is like, duo select transmission, huh?
Yeah, right. Those days are gone, thankfully, yeah.
Plastic and feathers.
Don't breathe on it too hard, let alone shift it. What are you thinking?
I mean, this feels fairly robust in construction and quality, and feels like you can kind of beat on it a little bit.
I want it to be a little bit better dynamically, and I want it to cost a little bit less. But there is something to be said.
Or white.
There's something to be said for the Alt. And I champion it a lot. You're championing it here. There's something to be said for the Alt.
Look, I also admit that my is it love? Is it like? Is it love? Where I can't decide.
You have an affinity for Maserati.
It's an affinity for Maserati.
Yes, you do.
Am I going too far the other direction just simply because there's new product? It is an Alt, and you know what? It is good.
Yeah.
It's fun to drive. That's why we like cars, and cars need to have personality, and that's what I'm feeling when I drive this Grecale. I'm feeling personality. Whether or not you agree with it, it's certainly not a Mercedes. It does not feel like Porsche.
No, it doesn't. You're right.
It's better
it feels
than
like a
Alfa.
different thing.
It's not any of the Japanese competitors. It's got a different flavor. And what I like about Maserati is that all of the styling, the way they approach the brand, everything about it is aimed at people who really notice and appreciate fine detail. I'm not saying there's other car companies that don't make cars for people that are into the finer things in life. That's not what I'm saying, but I am implying that Maserati is appealing to that always in people who dress really well on an airplane flight.
Those people exist still?
That's what I'm saying. When you see them, you're like, wow, you dressed up for a flight?
Yeah, everybody else is in pajamas.
Exactly. You're in Uggs and pajamas.
Yes.
But the person that is elegant and classy in all situations, that's what I feel like the Maserati brand has been curated to be like now.
All right.
And I feel like they've got kind of the product line to match. Affinity. It's an affinity.
You do have an affinity, yes. Your affinity has grown.
It has
grown.
grown.
You were definitely a fan at this point, yeah.
So you can get the mild hybrid, the two lower flavors, the GT and the Modena. You can get those with the mild hybrid inline 4. Pay less. Don't get the yellow color. Would I still buy it at that point? I'd buy something different.
Interesting. It's the Trofeo, the big paint that's doing it for you.
It's the Trofeo and the paint that I would justify. But I cannot say save your money because it's not as compelling as a Cayenne or a Macan.
Okay.
or an AMG product,
All right.
or probably a BMW.
Whoa. All right. We keep going here. I think if
That
I
is
wanted
the litmus test.
I think if I wanted the Italian alt, I'd probably go with the Alfa. But I still think that Maserati's done something cool here. I think it's a tough sell at this price.
Trofeo, I'll spend more. I'll spend way more.
You will. And
I'll
then you'll be
spend
happier.
stupid money.
Yes, you are the land
But I
of
won't
stupid
spend
money.
less, and because I wouldn't like it as much. Is that profound?
It sounds like you have an affinity for Maserati.
I guess so.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, it even has off-road mode. Well,
It
look
does,
at that.
yeah. It does. I can't imagine you taking your $19,000 paint somewhere off-roading, but that's, it does have an off-road mode.
That would suck to get
That would really suck.
scratches in your $19,000 yellow paint.
Nevada pinstripes down your $19,000
That would suck.
yellow paint. What'd you do today, honey? Don't ask.
Scratch.
Don't ask.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What does your $19,000 paint job cost to fix?
Probably about
Probably about $19,000.
Dang it. I cannot justify that. Boy, does it look good, though.
I like yellow.
Boy, does it look good.
I like yellow on some vehicles.
Is it not so Italian, though? Is it not so set apart and Italian?
It's set apart enough that I'm not going to pay for it. That's how set apart it is.